Greetings and welcome to Bubble Hearthing. I'm Bubble, and today we're going to be going over the black cards for Theros Beyond Death. You see, you got big bad Erebos back there with his ribs and then his whip. The artwork for this card is astounding. The card itself, we'll get to it, but just the artwork, oh my god. Like, I would get this on a playmat in a second, in a heartbeat. Without further ado, let's get into it. I'm going to be talking about it largely from the viewpoint of a standard gameplay. However, I will address limited. Just take in mind, I'm fully aware I'm not very good in limited. I'm okay. I think I get by a little bit, but take all my limited reviews with a grain of salt. Standard, I might be a little more accurate there. So we'll see. We'll see how I do. Okay, let's do how we do. Agonizing Remorse. Okay. 2 mana sorcery. Target opponent reveals their hand. You choose a non-land card from it, or a card from their graveyard. Exile that card, you lose 1 life. So, immediate comparison to Thoughtseize here, because Thoughtseize for 1 more, exactly. Since it just says non-land card, it's not duress, because duress is non-land on creature. This is also very similar to, Thought Erasure. That's the one. Worth noting, I do believe Thought Erasure is better than this card, not just because you don't lose the life, but because the Surveil is a very, very real, very significant ability. However, the fact that this can exile cards from the graveyard too, is important. This could be, just as Duress is sometimes sideboarded in, this could also be a very real sideboard card against decks that are focused on escaping. Since it exiles, it's very, very good. Also worth noting that you do not get to choose a card from their hand and their graveyard. It's one or the other, so you have to pick your poison there. But I think this is a solid sideboard card in Standard. In Limited, I don't think you couldn't. I feel like it's fine running one of these, 1 or 2 of these. Just to disrupt your opponent's hand a little bit. Yeah, why not? You lose a life, hopefully it doesn't matter. If it does, that sucks. Alright. 2 mana, 2/1 enchantment creature. Legendary enchantment creature, sorry. I repeat myself when I just botch words. Ephemia, the Cacophony. It is a flyer, and at the beginning of your end step, you may exile an enchantment card from your graveyard. If you do, you make a 2/2 black zombie creature token. Listen, in Limited, this card is insane. You play 2 mana for a 2/1 flyer. That's pretty good. What if you paid 2 mana for a 2/1 flyer and a 2/2 zombie? That's great. What if you get to keep doing that every single turn? For free, right? Well, you don't have to pay any more mana. That is amazing value. That is insane tempo. That is great. Now, how often are you going to be able to have an enchantment in your graveyard? You know, when you play this thing? Not necessarily all that often. You might actually want to hold on to this thing, though, until you definitely have enchantments to exile, because the effect is that good. That being said, it's an aggressive card. You're going to spawn 2/2 things. You could try to use them defensively, or you could just try to outrace your opponent and just use removal on the bigger creatures, and then suddenly, oh, so that thing that you had that was blocking my 2/2s, yeah, you don't have it anymore. Attack for 8? Okay. Next turn, attack for 8. Oh, and I attacked for a little bit earlier with Ephemia, so you're dead now. In Standard, oh boy. I don't think this is good enough in Standard, because even though you make a 2/2 every turn, Dreadhorde Invasion sees no play, and that is a 1/1 essentially every turn. Not exactly Bitter Blossom, but it's something. And the fact that you have to exile an enchantment specifically from your graveyard, it's nice that you don't have to. It's an option, so if you want to leave it in the graveyard for escape or something, you can. And at worst, it's a 2 mana 2/1 flyer. It's still pretty solid there. Maybe you'll still see play, because you play an enchantment, maybe you play a Saga or something, it dies, and then you get to play this thing, and you can get some upside to it. You know what? I don't see why not. Maybe 2 of, because having multiples hurts you, just dead in hand. Enchantment creatures. I completely forgot about enchantment creatures. Yeah, this will see playing Standard. If Monoblack Angry Things is a deck, if Black doesn't care about the graveyard at all, this will see play. Okay. Aspect of Lamprey. Hey, isn't that pretty? Oh, give me a kiss. Yeah, give me a little smooch with that face. Alright. 4 mana. Aura. Has to be a creature you control. When it enters the battlefield, target opponent discards 2 cards. And it gives your creature lifelink. So it is, what's the word? Mind Rot. And you get lifelink. Mind Rot usually costs 3. You're paying 1 mana for the lifelink ability. I don't like it. I'd rather just have 2 rats or some Fendlickers come into play. Gives you more devotion. And the lifelink probably doesn't matter too much. So no in all formats. Oh, I didn't look up how to pronounce this word. Catoblepas? Cato plebas? Beast. Blight Breath Beast. Okay? Okay. 6 mana, 3/2. Well, that's a horrible rate, as they say. That's really bad for the stats, or for the cost, depending on where you look first. When Blight Breath Beast enters the battlefield, target creature and opponent controls gets -X/-X until end of turn. So it gets around indestructible, and it does at least -2/-2. Probably a little more. Probably around minus. Probably X is probably 3 or 4. Your devotion. With that being said, 6 mana, kill 1 creature. Well, if you compare it to what the hell's the other one? Chupacabra, Ravenous Chupacabra, where it's 4 mana kill a creature, guarantee like hard removal, even though it doesn't get around indestructible. That saw play. That was pretty good. This costs 2 more and might get there, but might not. Ooh, boy. I don't like it. The only reason you're going to do this is if you're really heavy in devotion to black, because it gives you 2 devotion. But is that 2 devotion really going to matter going like into turn 6 at least? Oh boy. Nope. Nope. Don't like it. Unless you have like 2 or 3 gray merchants to try to recoup the tempo loss and the from playing this card. Nope. Nope. Alright, Cling to Dust. Let's see here. So 1 mana instant, exile a target card from a graveyard. If it was a creature card, you gain 3 life. Otherwise, you draw a card. And then escape is very, very expensive. Probably because it lets you draw a card. And they don't want you to just be like, yeah, escape for a little bit and keep drawing cards. Jesus, exile 5 cards and you have to pay 4? That's a huge thing. But think about it like this. Instant speed. If your opponent tries to escape with anything, you can play the first one of this. If, you know, your opponent's playing a slower deck, as just a cantrip. If they're playing aggressive, then you gain 3 life, whatever, you do what you gotta do. Instant speed, gain 3 life is pretty nice. Instant speed, 1 black, draw a card. Pretty good. And you can actually use the escape ability of this thing more so as a counter. So think of the escape as a counter spell, and the first one as just like a cantrip, or some life gain, if again you're against aggro. Probably a cantrip though, because is it better to gain life or get a card that can like, you know, deal with their creatures more? Right, so if you look at it that way, I actually like this card quite a bit. I feel like it's more of a sideboard card. Depending on how prevalent escape is, it could be a mainboard card. In limited, I would just not run this card probably, because yeah, I'm going to try to draw a card this card could be. Alright, unless you don't have any better options, unless escape is super good and you'll find out after like game 2. Otherwise, I wouldn't bother with it in limited, but in standard, yeah. I think this is a solid sideboard card for sure. 2 mana, Discordant Piper. When it dies, well, it's a 2/1. When it dies, you make a 0/1 goat token. I don't like it. The fact that the token is a 0/1 means it's basically useless. I like the artwork. I think that the artwork here is really nice with the mask, and it's a satyr, but it's all like dark. I don't know why it has 2 horns, but it does. Maybe that's the Discord. Because it's playing at 2 weird notes, and it's just like, oh, and also Vuvuzelas are just horrible. Vuvuzela Piper, that's what it should be. But anyway, but no, this card's bad. This card is just bad in all respects. So here's the problem that I have mentally here. I see the golden mask on the card, and considering the set symbol is a mask that is not really similar, but still a mask. I see it and I think, why is this a rare? When it's not. But that's what like my brain's telling me. I'm like, nope, that's not how this works. Alright. 4 mana, drag to the Underworld. Instant speed, destroy target creature. And it costs X less to cast, where X is devotion to black. So, worst case, 4 mana, kill something. You know, it compares directly with Murder, which is just 3 mana, destroy target creature. Worth noting that it can't kill a god because they're indestructible. And how often is this going to be 2 mana, destroy target creature? I feel like this card, and I'm taking this directly from Jim Davis, you can say that I stole it from him, whatever. He convinced me. This card is a lot worse than it seems at first. At first, it seems pretty good. It's like, okay, so I could just have 2 mana removal? Hello, Doomblade, thank you. And it can even kill black things, you know? But the fact that it's usually going to be 3 mana, possibly also, like, just 4 mana spell, I don't think this is exactly, like, peak removal quality. You still take it unlimited. In standard, I don't think it's going to see any play, really. I think there are other cards that are better, that are more significant to play. But in limited, sure, because it's removal. You can remove whatever, so that's fine. Alrighty, Eat to Extinction, my goodness. The close-up on this thing is terrifying. There's teeth everywhere. I don't know if that's a dentist's dream or nightmare, but that is what it is. And yes, I took that from something my partner said earlier, so hey. Alright, 4-mana instant. Exile, target creature or planeswalker, look at the top card of your library. You may put that card into the graveyard. Why doesn't it say Surveil 1? Because they didn't want it to trigger other Surveil effects, so they just wrote it out the long way, and it doesn't work off Jace's fan. Off, like, other Surveil things. Off the Dimir Spybug, whatever. So, this is a great card. It compares very, very directly with Vraska's Contempt, except it is easier to cast, because Vraska's Contempt costs 2 and 2 black. This is 3 and 1 black, so much easier to splash into something. Doesn't have to be, you know, too heavily devoted to. Devotion. See what I did there? The fact that it exiles is very, very good. And the Surveil 1 is a very strong effect. Quite often, obviously not really great against aggro, because it's 4-mana removal, but Surveil 1 is very, very good, especially against like control or mid-range decks, or just combo decks, even if you're trying to really get that one card that shuts them down. This is a great card. I don't think there's anyone denying that. We're just trying to figure out how good this card is. Is this going to be like the top tier removal thing that everyone's going to be running now? I think so. I think this is going to be in many, many decks. Just as Vraska's Contempt was in every single deck that ran black, even though it was a double black card, this is going to be in every deck that runs black. Unless it's so low to the ground, they don't have to care about it. Like, Rakdos Knights might not run this, because they just try to run over you, or run over you. They just try to run you over with either the Knights just, you know, Ember Cleaving stuff, and Reggie, running Regisaur, or they go over the top with Spawn of Mayhem. They might not run this. But anything that has an average, like, mana cost of, like, 3 or 4 or higher will run this card. Great card. Terrifying. But great. Elspeth's Nightmare, I love the artwork here. The fact that, like is that a Phyrexian, you know? And it actually is, because she has nightmares of fighting the Phyrexians. It's just it. Also, Phyrexia? I'm not the first person who thought that. Alright, 3-mana Saga. First chapter, destroy target creature an opponent controls with power 2 or less. Well, that sucks, because that means that it has almost no use later in the game. If you just completely whiff on your first thing there, this card's terrible. Because you just spent 3 mana to do nothing. So hopefully you do. The fact that it has to be 2 power or less is just abysmal. So that might alone make it unplayable. Let's see. Lore counter number 2. Chapter 2. Target opponent reveals their hand. You choose non. So lore counter number 2 is Duress. Take a non-creature, non-land card. Discard that card. It's nice they get the information, but they know it's coming, so they'll probably play whatever they possibly can that they don't want to lose. So that hurts. Your playability is a lot. The third thing is exile target opponent's graveyard. There's an artifact that does it a lot better. I think it exiles all graveyards, though. I don't know. I'm not exactly sure. Either way, you'd rather play the artifact, though. It's like a lantern or something. I'll check out my colorless set review. If it's not posted yet, it should be soon. This card's terrible. Love the artwork. Hate the effect. In limited, it has basically no use. Sure, you're more likely to see decks try to curve out and play lower power creatures, but oh god, it's so bad. It's so bad. 6 mana for a 5/5 flyer, Enemy of Enlightenment. It is an enchantment. Excuse me there. Sorry, had a little. I've been talking a lot. There's a lot of air going into places and out of places, and that's my mouth, really. And then they vibrate, and you hear them through the microphone. It's a miracle, really. Oh my god, it's amazing. Science. Anyway, it gets -1/-1 for each card in your opponent's hands. So I guess if you're playing this in like more than just one-on-one, it just dies. I imagine that's all it is. At the beginning of your upkeep, each player discards a card. Why couldn't that just be each opponent discards a card? Why do you have to discard 2? There's no reason to do that. Like, I would be fine playing a 6-mana thing where your opponent discards a card each turn, and this isn't really all that strong to start off. The fact that you both discard a card means this should cost much less. And the fact that it's an enchantment doesn't really matter too much, because you're not going to be trying to trigger Constellations with 6 mana. Or if you are, maybe you're going to want to play if you want to get more enchantments into the battlefield, you play ones that are cheaper. So you can do maybe 2 in 1 turn instead of just one big thing that might just die on ETB. It's worth noting that in Limited, this could see some play, just because by the time you get to play this, your opponent probably doesn't have too many cards in their hand. So it won't be too bad. It might be like a 3-3 or a worst case thing, it'll be 2-2. I mean, obviously, worst case is just dead, and you're... If your opponent has that many cards in hand when you're playing this card, just don't, right? But I don't think this card's going to see any play. I don't think it's worth it at all. Maybe if one little spot in Limited. Even then, it's not a bomb. Don't think it's a bomb. It's not a bomb. Erebos Bleak Hearted. Oh, how very bleak. A 4-mana 5/6. Usual Devotion Indestructible. Whenever another creature you control dies, you may pay 2 life. If you do, draw a card. That's pretty solid. So it's basically another version of Midnight Reaper. Whereas with Midnight Reaper, you have to take the 1 damage and draw a card. This one gives you the option. If you already have everything you need to in your hand, you don't have to pay 2 life. But if you do, it hurts a little more than Midnight Reaper. But at the same time, you get the option, like I said. So, very good effect there. But for 4 mana, at least with Midnight Reaper, if your opponent killed it, it still triggered off itself, and it replaced itself in hand. Whereas this doesn't work that way. Specifically when another creature control dies. It just doesn't work that way. And the ability at the end, you can pay 2 and sacrifice another creature. Target creature gets -2/-1 till end turn. So if your opponent has a lot of X1s, sure, that's pretty good. The fact that you can use this during combat means you might be able to use it as a combat trick, although you're sacrificing a creature for a combat trick, which also decreases your devotion to black. Usually, unless you're not running this in mono black, which would be weird. So the second ability, its abilities getting triggered is kind of counter to what you want to do with gods, with devotion. So, I hate to say it, but Erebos, I think you're just really, really bad. I think you're terrible. Your artwork is beautiful, but that's not enough reason to run you. I'm sorry, Erebos, but your judgment has passed, and your time has passed, and you're too late. If you're playing Limited, still play it. It's an indestructible god. It'll probably just work out. Just don't sacrifice your whole board and realize that you can't attack with the creature anymore. Now, how does he intervene? Well, he only costs 1 black and X instead of 2 black and X. So maybe he makes up for it with how he just comes in and, you know, snaps his whip. Everybody's gonna trip. Just like in Theros. Now then, choose one. Either target creature gets -X/-X until end of turn, and you gain X life. That's significant. Against aggro, not only do you kill the creature, but you gain some life. Very nice, very nice. All right, and secondly, exile up to twice X target cards from graveyards. You can pick your own cards if you want to. I guess this is largely aimed more towards, like, you know, having more opponents, not just 2v2, not just 1v1. So you can, you know, I exile 3 from player A, and, you know, maybe 1 more from player B, and I can do this, whatever. This is actually a really good card. This is a solid sideboard card, and don't think that because it's a sideboard card it means it's not as good. It is definitely going to see play in sideboards, 100%, which means like top tier play, guaranteed. Against aggro, there's probably going to be a combination, like, you know, aggressive escape deck, like in one thing. This, you have to choose which one, but it hoses that entirely. So yes, 100% will see play there. In Limited and in Standard, pick this card. Is it a first pick? Maybe not exactly. Like, it is removal, and you can exile stuff, so maybe it's even first pick worthy. But definitely a good card. Erebos, you're somewhat redeemed. Somewhat. Maybe to get some meat on those bones, I don't know. I mean, I like the horns, though. Horns are kind of cool. Alright. 5 mana, Final Death, instant speed, exile target creature. It's slow. If you really need some removal, if your deck has no removal in Limited, you can play this. Standard, unplayable. If you only have like 1 or 2 kill spells, and you're like, I really want something else to deal with these guys that someone's gonna have, I know. Sure. Otherwise, don't bother. Play something else for 5 mana that demands a response. Alright. We have the 1 mana Fruit of Treacherous? I don't know. Someone's fruity. Target player loses 2 life. So, Black Shock that only goes face. Okay. Not feeling it. Go on. Escape for 4 mana, exile 3 other cards from your graveyard. So the idea is that maybe as the game goes on, you just keep using this with any spare mana you have, but 4 mana is a lot to have just laying around. I don't like this card. Nope, nope, nope. If you want to do something like this, just play Shock. Just shoot your opponent in the face with Shock, and then play Underworld Breach, and just shock them a million more times. Only cost 1. Okay. 3 mana for Funeral Rites. You draw 2 cards, lose 2 life, and put the top 2 cards of your library into the graveyard. So this is like a Sign in Blood, Blood for Bones, Read the Bones kind of thing. There's multiple effects in Black that involve you drawing 2 and losing 2 life, and then something else is tacked on. In this case, it costs 3. At least Sign of Blood only costs 2. But this costs 3, and you mill 2 cards as well. I don't think milling 2 random cards, definitely 0 play in Constructed. In Limited, you can try it, but the fact that it costs 3 and not 2 means that you're giving up a lot of tempo just to do this. If you have a significant number of escape cards, if you have a good amount of graveyard energy, or some sort of recursion from the graveyard, or anything that involves that, then I could see you maybe reasonably playing this card. But if there's nothing, if you're just playing this to draw 2, and the 2 cards to the graveyard is just tacked on there, don't even bother. We have a 5 mana 4/4 Lifelinker. Already that's not too bad for the stats. Enchantment Creature, I like this card. Unless the effect is like some sort of thing that knocks it down a peg, unless it's a negative effect on the card, I like it already. When it enters the battlefield, search your library for a card, put it into the graveyard, then shuffle your library. Okay, just dump something in the graveyard. There's nothing wrong with that. And spells you cast from your graveyard cost 1 less to cast. That's great. This is a huge, huge escape enabler, and escape is a pretty damn good effect. Trust me. If you don't think it's that good, it is that good. If you're like, well, it's already pretty good, it's probably better than you think it is. As soon as someone gets a serious deck going through, you're going to see escape cards top tier. I can guarantee you that. All right. I will stake this container of super glue on it. I use it quite a bit when my 3D printing. So, you know, anyway. What? It's already mostly gone? I don't care. Whatever. But this card is really, really nice. Limited, absolutely take it. If you have any escape cards, dump it into the graveyard. It's basically a tutor in that sense. And it makes it cheaper, which is really, really nice. Lifelink means it's decent against aggro. I mean, it's not that great because a 5 mana 4/4. This is actually still pretty good. I really like this card. I also just like the fact that it's like a snake. I don't know. I like the design of it. I think that this could see maybe one spot. Maybe a one-of in Standard, in a constructed deck. In Limited, you basically play as many as you have. As long as you have escape cards, you play as many as you have. If you only have like 1 or 2 escape cards, maybe not. If you have like 5 or more, play all the Lamias you get. Which probably isn't going to be easy money. Hey, look who's back. Oh, Gary, how you doing, buddy? Oh, my goodness. Good to see you. Good old Gary. All right. In case you don't know, Grey Merchant of Asphodel is a reprint from earlier on when we first went to Theros. And he's back. And he's got some bags of coin, it would appear. So, for 5 mana, you get a 2/4. Hey, it's Gary! Okay, no. On ETB, each opponent loses X life, and you gain X life. You drain equal to your devotion to black. So, just base 5 mana, steal 2 life from your opponent. That's okay. Let me just tell you, back when Theros first came out and this card was in Standard, it saw quite a bit of play. And there's a lot of speculation, and I am on board with this. I truly believe that it's actually going to see even more play. It's going to be even stronger the way Standard is now. There's talk about this thing going with Bull as a Citadel. You basically play it for free, and you just drain at least 5 health from your opponent. Because you have to pay 5 to play it off the top, and then you gain 5 life afterwards, so as long as you have at least 6, you're fine, and you just deal 5 damage. Like, hello? This card is so exciting for me. I love it. Yeah, play it in Limited, play it in Standard, have a great time. This is easily a 3 or 4 of in any sort of mono black deck. Easily. Without a doubt. Grim Physician. Again, Gold Mask. Not rare. It hurts me. Also, this tie is not in the middle. Oh my goodness. Okay, there we go. That's a little better. Okay. 1 mana, 1/1. Okay. You should have some other effect there. 1 mana, 1/2. 1 mana, 2/1 is kind of really what you want. When it dies, target creature and opponent controls gets -1/-1 until end of turn. Okay, I'm pretty sure this has been printed on some of the card before, nearly exactly. It's fine. I mean, it's basically it just trades up. It's essentially a 1 mana 2/1 then. But you can maybe pick something else off. If your opponent has a whole lot of X1s, you trade with one of them and then use this effect to kill off another one. That's cool. If it's a X2, you can just kill that right off the bat. Yeah, it's fine unlimited. Standard, get it out of here. No, it's terrible. But limited, yeah, you could run one of these, 1 or 2. I see no reason why not. What do I have here? 1 mana Hateful Idol on 1 mana enchantment. The fact that it's a 1 mana 1/2 lifelinker enchantment creature means that just the cost for everything is insanely good. Okay, I don't care what this other ability is. You can get some card draw. Okay, it was already great, and now there's potentially a way for you to draw a card. Listen, do not sleep on this card. This card, what the heck is that face though? It's just like a little eyeball. It's like a little laser thingy. I don't know. Do not sleep on this card. This card has insane potential. This could be a 4 of if there's some sort of constellation, devotion, aura thing going on in black. In standard, I'm not even kidding. This could be like a 3 or 4 of. This is up there. All right. Going forward though, whenever an enchanted creature dies, draw a card for each aura you control that was attached to it. Okay. Keep in mind, this says enchanted creature, not enchantment creature. So this is trying to mitigate the drawback of the inherent 2-for-1s that are present when you play auras. Because you put an aura on, you have a creature. You put an aura on a creature. Your opponent kills them with 1 spell. Your opponent plays Murderous Rider and kills your creature. The aura goes away too. There's 2 things being killed by 1 thing. But with this thing in play, they use their 1 card, they kill your 2 things, and you draw a card. So it's 2 for 2, basically. Or, you know, it's 2 for 1, but you get a card back. So it's just 1 for 1. Which is very, very nice there as well. I don't know how many auras you're going to be playing. I don't know how often that second ability is going to matter. But I feel like in the right deck, which I do also believe exists, a 1 mana enchantment creature that can play like this is definitely worth a spot in standard. Unfortunately, in limited, it's not very good. Because it's a 1 mana 1/2. And who knows how many constellation effects you have, probably not too many. So there's that. But in standard, just watch out, okay? Watch for this deck. It's gonna be there. I don't know what it is. Hopefully I'll figure it out before everyone else does, because then I could be fancy like that. But then I could drop some swag on them. But I'd like to figure out what it is. I'll put some thought into it, but just watch out. Okay, moving on. Inevitable End. 3 mana, enchantment aura. Let's see, you put it on a creature. It has, at the beginning of your upkeep, sacrifice a creature. So I believe there was another enchantment, not in this set, obviously, that was printed where at the beginning of someone's upkeep, the target creature gets sacrificed. Like, they have to pick that one. This card is not nearly as good as people might think it is. Like, oh yeah, but if your opponent picks to sacrifice another creature, then they just get rid of more things, and it kills 2 and 3 and 4 creatures. No, listen. It's a 3-minute kill spell that doesn't always hit the target, right? Which is bad. The fact that you're giving your opponent the choice, and again, I don't want to just be like, oh, you just copied Tim Davis. He has very good points, so I'm reiterating. Trust me, he's a very smart guy. Watch his reviews too. I highly recommend it. But the fact that you're giving your opponent the choice to sacrifice a creature, maybe it's going to be like one of these things, and they sack this and they kill your creature, and you didn't want this to happen at all. You know, like, it's not good. It's worse than it seems. It's going to see 0 play in standard, and you could try to play one of these in limited, and when you do, and your opponent doesn't sack the creature you want them to, it's going to feel bad. You could try to have some kind of big brain play, and like, oh, they think I want them to sacrifice this one, but I actually want them to get rid of this one. Listen, more power to you, but either kill it, or get something that they can't run over, and move on. This card is not really a card. It doesn't even really help your devotion. If they sack the creature, this goes away, and then your devotion's gone. All right, 2 mana 1/3 enchantment creature. Okay, you have my attention. Pay 1 and sack a creature. Each opponent loses 1 life, and you gain 1 life. Huh. Huh. Hold on. I don't know why I never saw this card. I really like this card though. Now this isn't as big as the other one that I saw because the difference between 1 and 2 mana is significant. The fact they have to sack a creature is annoying, but what if you just had like some sort of a, doesn't even have to be mono black. Oh, you could do like a, no, I was gonna say black and white, but the white one that has the devotion thing requires devotion to white, so it's not gonna be very strong. Anything that can spit a lot of tokens. I'm just imagining you do that, then you just pay a bunch of life, sack the creatures, and you just steal one at the end of the game. It's probably not strong enough though. I'm gonna say this card really isn't gonna see any play. I don't think this is gonna be a game winner. In limited, it can be if you're that close to killing your opponent and you just have to get those last few bits of damage in there. Sure, it's basically your burn spell. Excuse me. And you can always like swing in if you have some mana untapped and whatever trades unfavorably, just sack it in response so that at least it gets some damage on and gains some life. And then everything else that they don't block well, you can just let those go through. But that's like, you get one shot with this thing to work out. And after that, is there anything you could use this with? Like, what the heck's that? I just mentioned it earlier. I don't know, the amass thing where you get to amass the thing every single turn and you take 1 damage. The thing that isn't Bitter Blossom. Oh god, I'm sorry, it's hurting me right now. My brain is being pained. But anywho, you can use it with that and the tokens there. So you take 1 damage every turn, make a 1/1, then you pay 1 to sack that and you get the life back. Just to ping your opponent for 1? Eh, maybe not. Okay. So in short, there might be like one of these somewhere that makes the deck. There might be one fringe deck that's like tier 2, 2.5 maybe. In limited, maybe one of. Alright, 3 mana for Minion's Return. It has flash, which is nice. Enchant a creature when it dies, return it to control. Return it to the battlefield under your control. So these effects usually get a lot more hype than they're actually worth. There was one printed in, was it in Eldraine? Or was it somewhere else? I feel like it was in Eldraine. It was, I know because it was, the artist was Seb McKinnon. It was illustrated by Seb McKinnon, and he's a fantastic artist. Oh my goodness, I love his style and everything. He just does fantasy work so very well. Check him out, please. But anywho, I think it was like some sort of servitude. Anyway, so the fact that it has flash means that you can actually use it like sneakily, as opposed to like previously where you just had to put it on the card, and they're like, well, I guess I don't really want to kill this thing now, because otherwise my opponent gets it, so I'll just leave it alone and attack if it's safe. So that does give it some value, but this is strictly a limited card. Unless there's some sort of combo where you have a creature that comes in and on ETB it sticks this aura to it, so it's basically unkillable. There might be a combination, there might be some sort of combo there. I think those cards might exist. If that doesn't exist, then this shouldn't see any play in Standard. Even if it does, it might not be strong enough, because the creature that have that ability probably has really bad stats. Although it does give you an infinite sack outlet. So it's probably okay then. Okay. But then why don't you just do with the cat thing? Is this really better than just cat oven? I don't know. You could see it as like a counter to a kill spell, but then just... I wouldn't do that. For 3 mana, you can actually just run a counter spell. Okay, Myer's Grasp. A 2 mana enchantment. Enchanted creature gets -3/-3. Fine. Fine. Limited removal. Even in Standard, if you're running heavy devotion, this could stick around and just blank one of your opponent's creatures for a while. Of course, it would have to be a 3x or greater, like 3/4 or something. Or up to actually, you know, be something. It has to have 4 or more toughness, otherwise it doesn't contribute to devotion in the least. But if you have any sort of aura recursion, this could be seen as a bit of a kill spell. I like it. I like it a bit. There's not a whole lot of like -X or deal whatever damage in black though. It's usually just Murderous Rider, I kill your thing. I don't have to worry about your thing because it's dead. We have Eat to Extinction, I kill your thing. I exile your thing. It's super dead. So this might just be outclassed by those 2 cards. What else do we have here? 2 mana, 2/1 Death Touch, Myer Triton. When Myer Triton enters the battlefield, put the top 2 cards of your library into your graveyard and you gain 2 life. So Jim Davis was all about this card being like resident sleeper. Don't be surprised when this thing makes the top, like, you know, 5 cards of the set and just blows everything out. The fact that it isn't an enchantment creature, I think, is what makes me not happy with this card. 2 mana, 1/2, 2/1 Death Touch. Okay. Relevant card. Trades with whatever, sure. ETB, mill 2, and you gain 2. Good against burn, except it dies to a shock. But that's shock that isn't going to your face, I guess, so it's almost like gain 4. That's something. I guess it trades well into Steamkin, because even if they buff it, then you still kill it, but if they buff it, they're probably buffing it with a burn spell, and they just may as well shoot it at your Triton. 2 mana, mill 2 cards. That's what we're seeing here. I don't like it. I'm just gonna put it out there. I do not like this card. I mean, it's a blocker, I guess. And the fact that your opponent has to use a card to deal with it, it's not just gonna like coincidentally die or be like chump blocked and then whatever thrown to the side, is significant. I just don't like it. That being said, though, in limited, if you have any significant escape things in your deck, go ahead and run this card. Nothing wrong with that. In standard, even if you don't, it's fine for a 2/1 Death Touch. It trades. In standard, I don't see it, and I'm pretty sure this is something. This is the card I could be the most wrong about. I'll admit that this could go in the complete opposite direction, and it can be amazing, but I don't see it being that good. I can't tell. I can't say it's going to be good. I see it being bad. Okay. Is it uncommon at least? Okay, whatever. Anyway, Mogis's probably Mogis' favor. 1 mana aura. Enchanted creature gets +2, -1. And then you can escape it for not really too much. 3 and then 2 other cards from the graveyard. So, I see this getting the most use if your opponent has a lot of X1s, where you can just escape it on multiple things. Okay, put it on there is dead. Put on this other one, this one dies. Now this one dies. Otherwise, I don't really think you want to put this on your own creature. You could potentially do it if you like, if you're doing Rakdos Knights and there's already an Embercleave on something, then it's going to punch through and destroy things anyway. So doing +2 is largely +4 damage. But at that point, usually once you get the Embercleave on the board onto a creature, you should win the game. Because it should be such a huge tempo swing if they're blocking at all that there's no contest there. So I don't like this card. I think there's a better way to deal with creatures that have 1 toughness. A 4-mana 4/4 flyer enchantment creature. It's great. It's great. There's nothing wrong with this. This card's fantastic. What else does it do? Whenever another non-token creature you control dies, you may exile it. You may. The fact that it says may is very, very nice. If it said you had to, that would kind of suck. That would shut down some amount of synergy with this card. The fact that you have the option to is beautiful. If you do, create a token that's a copy of that creature, except it's 1/1 and it's a nightmare in addition to its other types. So that means that you're going to be looking to either use that to keep devotion on the board, because it will still maintain whatever devotion it had before. So if you do that with, I don't know, is it something that has double devotion, whatever. Not really, but anything that has 2 black symbols in the top 2 or 3, multiple things, is going to keep that, even just the 1/1s. So it's a way to maintain devotion, right? Through things dying. Maybe if you have this with Erebos, you can still use his abilities and not feel bad about it. But it also works very well with, say, Grey Merchant of Asphodel. Maybe, you know, you do that. You get to drain some life twice. Between the 2 of them, they have 4 devotion. So that's 8 damage if you get both triggers to go off. That's not something to just, like, wave a hand at, even though I'm waving my hands a lot. That's not something to ignore. That is significant. I think this card is fantastic. This card is great. Obviously unlimited. It's insane. Play it. Play all the things. Your 1/1s, even if they have no other abilities, can just clog up the board. The fact that you keep a 1/1 there is very, very real. It's a very real threat. And in standard, yeah. Oh, hell yeah. It's not even legendary, so you can make multiple copies, although it would trigger for each one, so you wouldn't be able to exile multiple times. So you can't make multiple copies. Multiples of these things don't really do too much. Except they could potentially protect each other for a time, because you exile the card. God, it's so good, though. Yeah. The fact that multiples don't actually help you much on the board means it might only be like a 2 or 3 of in a deck, instead of just guaranteed 4. But still. Ah, so good. Alright. Next born Marauder. A 4-mana 4/3. Enchantment creature. I mean, if you need 4 mana cards in your limited thing, fine. If you need 4 mana cards in standard, why are you looking at a vanilla card? No. If you need enchantments, do something else. Omen of the Dead. Ah, yes, look at that. I love the tapestries hanging from the horns as well. Lovely, lovely tapestries. A 1 mana flash enchantment. When it enters the battlefield, return target creature card from your graveyard to your hand. And you can do the whole scry thing, just as all the omens do. All the omens have that scry text on the bottom. So Flash Disentomb, that's what it's called, right? You just get the creature, give it back to your hand. I mean, it's bad. Just straight up, it's bad. It's nice that it can give you devotion, sure. And if you have 1 mana laying around, as you tend to do when you get towards the mid to late game, then it's kind of not even, it's not even disturbing your play necessarily, disturbing the flow of the game. You could just play it at the end of your opponent's turn, like, hey, I'm going to get that creature back that we just traded with, you know. Ideally, you either set up a trade, or maybe you sacrifice something for Erebos' effect, get it back, then you still have to replay it, though. I'd be happy if it just costed more and was a reanimator effect. That'd be so much better. That would be intensely better. Even if it cost like 6 mana, I would still say that'd be much better. If it was like 4 black, it would offset the whole Omen thing because they're all really cheap costing cards. But if that's what it was, it would be very good. The fact that it doesn't put it on the board, yeah, this only costs 1, but I think there's better options. You could try it though. You could try it. In limited, it's worth giving it a shot if you have a significant high end. If you don't, and you don't have a really good number of defensive creatures that just have like Death Touch or something, then don't bother. Because you're just going to be waiting for turn 3 to scry 2 at that point, and it's not worth it. Alright, for Ricas Libation, it is a 3-mana instant. You choose one. Either target opponent sacrifices a creature, so that I believe is called an Edict effect, off of like, what, Vampiric Edict? Or target opponent sacrifices an enchantment. You cannot choose both. You can't make them sacrifice both things. It's not a thing. It is worth noting that this might be the first time Black has actually had enchant removal. Straight up saying, like, I do not like this enchantment. It's your opponent's choice of an enchantment, but it might be the first time in the history of Magic. So here you go. We might be making history here, folks. If not, then I'm wrong. Whatever. So the first effect is bad. We already have Liliana's Triumph, which is the same thing, and they could potentially discard a card as far as the first ability, but it costs 1 less. And that card sees 0 play. So that first ability is just bad right off the gate there. The second one, how important our enchantment is going to be, that's yet to be seen, because there's so many that are coming in this set that could be reliable, that could be significant. And then you have to consider, it's most likely that you're going to want to kill a god with this. You already have E2 Extinction, but sure, maybe you really want to double down on things. How likely is it that your opponent isn't going to have another enchantment creature or another enchantment in general on the board? Not very likely. Because if they're playing gods, they're trying to get devotion, and enchantments hang around, and enchantment creatures are very good. So this card's bad. Okay, there we go. We got to it. You can try to run this in limited if you have one, if you don't have any better kill spells. If you have a better kill spell, if you have that one that exiles for 5 mana, play that instead. This card is... Alright. We have a 4 mana, 3/4 in Ferry Cos Spawn. It has escape for 6, and when it escapes... No, not when it escapes. It escapes with 2+1/+1 counters on it. When it enters the battlefield like that, each opponent sacrifices a non-Gorgon creature. This card is so nice in limited. In standard, you can't play it, but in limited, like, okay, so you play it 4 mana, 3/4. Sure, this could be one of the cards that you want to put in the graveyard from the Lamia, I think. That would be worth it. But yeah, hits the graveyard, sure. You escape it for 6, and it comes up as 5/6, and your opponent sacks a creature. There is nothing wrong with that at all. The fact that you can do it again, and you're only exiling 3, the large limiting factor for escape is the size of your graveyard, not necessarily the mana base. So, this is a really good limited card, absolutely. Your opponent answers it, you play it again. And it'd be funny, though, if you and your opponent were both playing the same thing, so it's like non-Gorgon creature. Well, oh well, we just kind of stand here and look at each other. You hard yet? No. How about you? No? Damn, where are some people who can turn to stone? I don't know. Well, I guess I'll talk to you later. Okay, bye. Okay. But yeah, great in limited. That might just be a bomb in limited. Standard, obviously, now that I said that. Alright, 5 mana, 5/4. Rage Scarred Berserker. Well, it's a Minotaur, which could be relevant, but we'll see. When Rage Scarred Berserker enters the battlefield, target creature you control gains +1/+0 and gains indestructible until end of turn. The fact that it's not a flash creature means it's bad. The little buff and the indestructible doesn't help. It doesn't give it trample, so it could still just be chump blocked. No. This is not great. There is that one Minotaur, that one card that brings all Minotaurs from your graveyard or from your deck or from somewhere onto the battlefield. So yeah, I guess you could use that and kind of use it like suddenly this thing's buffed and all the other effects go off. But no, this card is not good. It's not good, okay? You could play it in like one little spot for limited if you need something that's like a little bit tougher. But don't count on the ability doing anything for you. Just play it as a 5/4 if you want to. And if that doesn't appeal to you, play something else. Standard, no. There we go. Scavenging Harpy. A 3 mana 2/1 flyer. When it enters the battlefield, exile target card from an opponent's graveyard. No, this is really bad. 3 mana for a 2/1 flyer is really, really bad on rate. Nothing good there. Not good at all in standard. Nope. And the Soul Reaper of Mogis. 3 mana... 2/3 enchantment. Okay. Pay 3, sack a creature, draw a card. Not okay. Not okay. The fact that it costs 3 means it's very... It's going to take basically your whole turn to trigger whatever constellation effect you have, or it's just an enchantment creature. And it's worth noting that if you don't actually have very much... whatchamacallit? Constellation effects. If you don't have a whole lot of payoffs for having enchantment creatures on the board, then this is just more vulnerable to removal. It dies to enchantment removal and creature removal. So, and it goes for all enchantment creatures as well. So, although there is definitely an upside to triggering more effects when you go in, it also has a huge target on its head that's a lot easier to hit. And the sack thing, no, it's not good. So you're going to play this as a 2 mana 2/3 enchantment creature. And I don't like that. Nope. Obviously no standard play. Limited, if you really needed something like that, like I wouldn't, but the average power level of creatures might be a little bit lower, so maybe you could sneak that in there and maybe use the effect once. That's about it. Alright, what do we have here? Is that it? Temple Thief, Treacherous Blessing, Time Merit. There's quite a few T's, aren't there? Okay, anyway. 2 mana for a 2/2 Temple Thief. Can't be blocked by enchanted creatures or enchantment creatures. Alright, just a bear. I mean, it's a bear that might not be blockable. And for those who are wondering, a bear is just a 2 mana 2/2. I think it's a card called Grizzly Bear that is a 2 mana 2/2. So, that's why. Okay, I mean, in limited, sure. Obviously no standard play. Not at all. Although, I can't wait till you have the scenario where you enchant your opponent's creature just so this can be unblockable. And you might even buff their creature, who the hell knows? But then you swing in for lethal, and you win the game! So that's a hell of a scenario that's probably not going to happen too much, but when it does, oh, it feels so good. So you play this card for that very reason. If you're not going to try to get that, like, 1 out of 5, 1 out of 10 games where it actually works out, then don't. You're not going to win a whole lot of games playing this card. It's fine as a bear, but whatever. Now, this card is one where I'm going to put my left arm further back into the chair. Okay, I'm coming back. Treacherous Blessing. Costs 3 mana. It is an enchantment. When it enters the battlefield, draw 3 cards. In black. 3 for 3. You have my attention. Alright, whenever you cast a spell, you lose 1 life. And now you have my concern. When Treacherous Blessing becomes the target of a spell or ability, sacrifice it. So, you do want to get this off the board pretty much as soon as you can. You could try to play this in, like, as a one-of in Standard, and also Unlimited. I would never play more than one of these cards. Oh my goodness. Not even saying that I wouldn't play more than one on the board, which is a given, but I would never even play more than one in any deck. And if there's some deck that comes out and runs 4 of these things, you broke it somehow. And congratulations, and you deserve all the praise. And if I can find out how to do that, it'd be great. Worth noting, though, since you can't target it with anything, otherwise it dies, well, what are you doing? One of the big drawbacks there is you can't just play that and then have to ferry. and bounce it, and then be able to replay it and also play all your stuff, you know, without taking damage, and then play this afterwards. So it shuts down that combo before it even starts. Boy. Can't even target it with anything. I mean, so maybe you want to target it, though? Is there anything that's significant where you can just target it and then you sacrifice it? Jeez. You could try to run it with Doom Foretold, but then when it comes back around to your thing, you have to sacrifice something else because you targeted it, maybe? I don't know. Like, you could play this into Doom Foretold. I'll have to see how that interaction works. Maybe that's like the only place is worth it. But even then, when you get it back from the graveyard, unless you're going to win that turn with Dance in the Manse, you don't want to bring it back. So, consider that. Yeah, potentially a one-of in some deck. But, God, you better find a way to make it worth it. If you don't win soon, then it's just... You get basically one turn after this. You draw your cards... You can probably untap and play something else, and then you're dead. Alright, Timerit calls the dead. What does he call them? He calls them Timerit. Cool. 3 mana saga. The first 2 chapters, put the top 3 cards of your library into your graveyard. Then you may exile a creature or enchantment card from your graveyard. If you do, create a 2/2 black zombie creature token. And the final one is you gain X life and scry X, where X is the number of zombies you control. So there are a few zombies. It's worth noting that a lot of the Dread Horde, that's what the card was called, Dread Horde Invasion, I was thinking about before, whatever, from War of the Spark, are zombies, so you could use that. However, zombie tribal stuff doesn't really see a whole lot going on right now. There's not a whole lot of support for zombies. This is basically just this card. However, a saga that makes 2 2/2s that costs 3, well, that sounds a lot like History of Benalia. Worth noting, this is not as good as History of Benalia, but History of Benalia was insane with the power level. It was like all the way up there. You see how you can't see my hand? That's how high up there it was. If History of Benalia wasn't a thing, I'm pretty sure Mono White Aggro would not have been a tier 1 deck. Just because that card is so good. Yeah, you still have the Benalia Marshal, but even then. And Adonto Vanguard. Ugh, jeez. But the fact that you mill 3 cards, and then you can exile something. If you don't want to, then you're paying 3 mana to do not a whole lot, so that really hurts. So you really want to make sure you have targets to exile. And then when you do, you make an extra 2/2. Like, 2 mana 2/2, okay, turn 3. Turn 4, you make another one for free now. And you can play your loader 4 drop. And then turn 5, you don't deal any damage to your opponent that way, but you gain some life, and you scry some when you search through some more cards. So it's largely a very defensive thing, which is really awesome. Like, this is actually a very, very good card. It's just, when you compare it to a very strong offensive card, it looks bad. But in reality, it's not anywhere near as bad as you think it is. It's actually really, really strong. This will get you there. This will get you somewhere, trust me. I think one of the most important things is just like the life gain, the scry, and it leaves behind tokens. It's a very good defensive card. Do not put this in an aggro deck. Probably not, you know. 3 mana, make a 2/2, But defensively, you're on point. And here is Timerit himself. Look at that, he's got that big old sword, and he's like, ah, I T-pose before you. Now then, T-pose to assert dominance. A 2 mana demigod. It's worth noting that every color gets their own demigod. If you haven't seen the other color reviews, then feel free to check them out, because I mentioned that there too. His toughness is equal to your devotion to black, so he's a sturdier creature. He's not really aggressive. He's like, I'm gonna stand here and none shall pass, or maybe you're all gonna pass back to the underworld. All right, and his ability is you can pay 2, exile up to 2 target cards from graveyards. You gain 1 life for each creature card exiled that way. So you know how Kaya, Orzapi Super, whatever she is, the one that was played, the 3 mana Kaya, had that +1, you can exile a creature from your opponent's graveyard and gain some life. I'm mincing the words a little bit, I'm paraphrasing. That saw some play. Back when it first came out, it actually saw some decent play. It was really good against aggro decks and such. This is very good against aggro. Any sort of like Monoblack Devotion is going to play this anyway. The fact that I believe that Escape is going to be a very strong mechanic, and this just has a built-in counter to it, on top of being at least a 2 mana 2/2, probably gonna be closer to like a 2 mana 2/3, 2/4. with the thing that can gain you some life and just hose your opponent's effects, great card. Great card. Yeah, great and standard and limited, by the way. Both ways. Underworld Charger. How many more do Underworld Dreams? Oh my goodness. Okay, I think that other one's the last one. Just because, like, I'm kind of tired too. Sorry. I know this video is going long. Alright, 3 mana for a 3/3. It can't block. Feels bad. It escapes with 2+1/+1 counters on it, and you have to pay a decent amount to escape it. So you can pay 3 to make a 3/3 or 5 to make a 5/5 that can't block. I wouldn't play it. I wouldn't even bother with it. There are other cards you can play that are more aggressive. If it had Trample, maybe. But, so what do you consider here? Okay, so you play it, it dies, right? It dies at some point. Because your opponent can only take so many 3 hits to the face. But there are a decent number of cards that are like X4, X5, where it wouldn't actually die, and it just attacks for no good reason. And it can't block, so you might as well attack. Ugh, jeez. But if you escape it, though, you only exile 3 cards from your graveyard. The cost is pretty high, but it's a 5-mana 5/5. Which is reasonable. And you can continually put that out there and swing. Okay. You know what? I don't hate it for that sense. In limited. Standard, get rid of it. Standard's horrible. In limited, this could be one of your just late game, hopefully I can just continually apply pressure cards. Underworld Dreams. Oh god, I love this reprint. I don't like the artwork as much. I actually prefer the other one, was like the tree with all the little eyeballs sticking out. That's something. But, oh jeez, I'm nocturnal and this burns. But anyway, I am nocturnal, by the way. I just work the night shift. I'm not trying to be like, ho ho, I'm a strange human being. I work nights. Anyway, side note. So it costs triple black, which is huge because Monoblack Devotion says, hello, thank you very much, I will take them. Shut up and take my money. Shut up and take my mana. But anyway, you enchant, you just put it down. Whenever an opponent draws a card, they take 1 damage. If they draw 2 cards, they take 2 damage, you know. So it's just 1 damage at the beginning of the turn. The downside to this is Death Shadow. No, I'm kidding. The downside to this is that it's 3 mana, does not affect the board in any way at all. The upside is you put a clock on them. It's similar, I guess, to Ill-Gotten Inheritance, but it costs less. And if they draw more cards, which they probably are going to because card draw is good, let's just be honest here. We have card draw on blue, red. We have card draw on white? Not really. Blue, red, and black are like the 3 ones. Obviously, blue is like kind of paramount there. So, and green has a little bit. It's probably going to deal more damage than Ill-Gotten Inheritance. And though you don't gain the life, it just sticks around. And it gives you so much devotion. If you have... Here's the thing. I have an idea of like a Monoblack Devotion deck. Very, very simple idea. Where you have these, and you have Grey Merchant of Asphodel. When he comes down, you drain 5. And these things deal more damage. Is it possible that deck is actually any good, though? Because your 3 drops... These three drops don't affect the board. And Grey Merchant of Asphodel is a blocker that largely doesn't really affect the board. So, can you afford to even play those cards? I think you're largely just going to have this to give you devotion. Maybe one of these in like a mainstream deck. I want to play 4. I want to play 3 or 4, honestly. And if I can find a way to make it work, then more power to me. But if I can't, then I wouldn't be surprised. In limited, hell yeah, play this card. Are you kidding? I mean, you know, you better play this with a ton of removal, because not doing anything on turn 3 hurts a lot, but eventually, you win. Alrighty, what else do we have here? Venomous Hierophant. Jeez, love the names here. 4 mana 3/3 with Death Touch. Okay, well, sure. When it enters the battlefield, put the top 3 cards of your library into the graveyard. Yeah, sure, there's nothing wrong with that. Obviously, no standard play. But in limited, yeah, I don't see why not. If you have anything that works well in the graveyard, if you have that weird Underworld Charger, yeah, that's cool. Anything else that has escape or whatever, yeah, totally. I play this card. I play this card every day. Let's see, we have Woe Strider. Oh my god, it's not the last one. I think there's more. I'm just going to keep going until I wrap back around to whatever started with A. So, 3 mana, 3/2. When it enters the battlefield, you make a goat token. You can sack a creature and scry 1, and you can escape it. It escapes with 2+1 counters on it. So 3 mana 3/2, and you make a 0/1. Well, 0/1's largely useless, but it's supposed to fuel his ability. Very important to note here. The sacrifice to scry 1 does not involve tapping this creature, and has 0 mana cost to it. So as long as you can just keep sacking creatures, you can keep scrying 1. And what that means is if you have any way to have a creature that continuously comes back when it dies or when it's sacrificed, maybe some combination of auras, you could potentially... Okay, technically you could potentially fix the order of your entire deck. Because you go through the whole thing, figuring out what everything is, then you switch it around. That would take forever, but it's possible. Realistically, you find a card that you like on top and you put it on top. That is a very real card. It's a very real effect there. Yeah, this actually could see some play just because of that. If there's enough like token stuff. The reason why I think it might not though is because, jeez, what's that card called? The 6/6 Trampler, the horror thing, where you can pay 2 life and surveil 2. That sees 0 play, and that has a very, very similar, easier to activate effect even on a bigger body, and 0 play there. So you know what? In that context, this will not see any standard play. In limited, yeah, just because it can escape, so you might have to kill it 2 or 3 times, sure. But beyond that, meh. You block with a go token, you scry 1, it feels good. Alright, and that's it! Oh my goodness, that's the last one. Okay, wow. I kind of want to look at what the horror card's called now. But we're over an hour, so guess what? I'm going to stop this right now before I pass out and die. Actually, I'm going to drink a little bit of water on the stream. Gotta get that clear juice. Okay. Jeez, I gotta stay out of the light. Oh, God, oh, it burns. I'm a vampire. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. Feel free to put your comments, how you felt about a few cards. If something you thought I said was completely off the mark, let me know. I'm open to criticism. You can even say that my suit's ugly. I think it's pretty nice. I actually really like it, but please don't. No, you can't. Anywho, though, without any more rambling, thank you very much. Feel free to catch my streams. I stream Monday, Tuesday, not Monday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday morning, Eastern time, like 6 in the morning. It's weird, but I said I work nights. I have all my VODs up there if you want to, though, on twitch.tv/bubblehearthing. Check it out. And without further ado, good night or good morning, depending on where you are in the world. But as always, good luck.